Howdy, folks. Welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And today is Monday. Shoo, it's been a while since I've done a show on a Monday, but here we are. Hopefully, there'll be a few of us joining us tonight. Kind of been excited about this one, folks. As y'all know, I've been talking about this higher mind and trying to take back our own power and work with things like that. So I know I haven't read this book straight out yet, as I'm going to and with you all. But I did take it's a higher mind training course, like a seminar, and I know he kind of went along with the book a lot, and so I'm going to incorporate some of those ideas and some of the like you know games and practices that we did during the seminar. I'm going to incorporate those in with it, but we'll get into that in a minute. I'm going to give a few people some time to get in here. This is just going to be pretty much casual. I am going to, I did kind of look through it for a minute. And when it was set up through the seminar, the way he described it, it wasn't set up in chapters. But as I've looked through this book, it seems to be set up in chapters. So that's going to help as far as starting and stopping points. I'm really going to have to get a grasp on the flow as far as how it goes. Since the chapters are relatively short, I figured maybe in between each chapter after we get going. I know the beginning is just kind of getting going, but I figured maybe after we get going we could stop in between each chapter and kind of take questions, like I said, and then I'll incorporate some of those ideas. But anyway, said we'll get to that here in a minute. I hope everybody's having a good day thus far and starting off a good week. It is Monday. So I don't know if anybody heard today that I did see like I said, this is MSN though, but I did see that the UN come out and uh, told everybody to prepare for a global recession. And I mean, we've been talking about that anyway, like my 2 cents, it's just that, just my 2 cents. My opinion on the whole sickness going around right now is I think that's pretty much what they've been setting up for anyway, is to bring a little control into the situation. And the collapse of the dollar has just been a ruse. I don't care what people say about the stock market soaring and all that. If you if you believe those numbers, it's all a ruse. And this house of cards is truly getting ready to tumble. So why not? This is perfect time to implement something like that. And especially with all the weather and the food deficits that we've been talking about, and that's something else I do want to kind of say before we get going as well. I don't really say anything in on here much as unless I pretty much either know 100%. I like to make sure I've got my information right. And but something that has been brought to me lately, I got that one message a while back where I was talking about the culling being a necessary part of the process, and it's not really, what was it? It's not, they weren't really here to be sacrificed. It's more of a processing thing going on. So folks, all I can say is be prepared. From what message I got is, I've been a big proponent of this micronova, and I don't know that that's going to happen. I do truly believe it'll happen at some point in our history. I don't know if it'll be during our lifetimes, but I do know in my heart and in my soul and in my mind that there's going to be some kind of major solar event sooner rather than later, like a coronal mass ejection. And what I'm just seeing, I'm not seeing like mass destruction, all that, but I'm seeing major power outages and things like that. And like I said, you're already starting to see the ports empty, manufacturing stopping, and that's all over in other parts of the world. And it looks like it's going to happen here too. I mean, like I said, it seems to be part of the process. So anyway, just make sure that, like I said, go out and buy 10, 20 pounds of rice and beans. I mean, just get you by through a little bit, that don't cost much. So just go out there and prepare on a few things. Please, 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 please trust me on this. Go out there and prepare on a few things. Just, I mean, like I said, look at the way panic stricken people now are clearing the grocery stores. It's been like that. They can mention snow here and the grocery stores are wiped out. so I can't imagine that with something like this going on, and especially if it escalates. So be mindful of that. Like I said, don't be scared, just be prepared. And we'll all get through this. So anyway, let's see, is there anything else I was wanting to cover before we get going? I do know I don't think I'm going to be doing the show tomorrow night. I need to tell David. I haven't told him that, but I don't think I'm going to do the show tomorrow night. So I'll be off tomorrow night and Wednesday. I do have Ryan SK and Kent Nichols coming up Thursday. And then, of course, the weekend shows will be going. So unless anybody sees, is this what you're seeing? Yes, Jesse McCartney, unfortunately, that is what I'm seeing. And like I said, I really don't like to say things like that, and because I don't want to bring any fear at all. And like I said, I don't think there's any reason to fear it. Well, what good's that going to do? I just want people to be prepared, but I really do. I put a video out yesterday of all the sprayers up in the air, and man, they were hard at it all day. That was just at like 7 o'clock in the morning. And today, I mean, I've never seen it this bad. And I know y'all have heard me say this before, but literally it was like the Indianapolis 500 going on up there of sprayers. It was just, and it was all over the sun. And then you'd see one line come this way, go in front of something. I mean, they made sure they were covering it up. So we're already seeing these solar events, especially going into a solar minimum. And we're just getting into it, folks. So to me, it's inevitable. So please prepare. All right, let's see who we got with us so far, and we'll get going. Scott Severini, how you doing? Miss Blanca Lugardo, how you doing? Mr. David Castle, what's going on, buddy? Tony Cherie, good to see you. Robin Hill, how you doing? Good to see you. There's Miss Paula, how you doing? And Miss Delaney. Rebel Rose, howdy, y'all. Bridget Williams, howdy. Miss Shannon Clean, how you doing? Johan, welcome back. Since you haven't been here in a couple of shows, good to have you back. There's Miss Trina Phoenix. We'll be seeing her Saturday night. Who else we got going on? Yeah. Project Skyfalls. I said it. Jesse McCartney. I don't know if I said that already, but if not, I'll say it again. So we got a few join. There's Morning Dew. What's going on, Mike? I need to get you back on here, buddy. It's been a while. Lee Ann V, how you doing? Star Eagle, what's going on, Star? Let's see, who else we got going on here? I don't guess we're in a hurry, it's just me. Brian Parker, what's going on, buddy? I'm going to be getting him on here next Sunday. Dark Truth, good to see you. Jill Jarrett, what's going on out there on the coast? Mr. Gary Baxter, what's going on, Gary? TDF, welcome. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, it's the worst I've ever seen. And like I said, I don't know if they're diverting. What I will say, one thing, I did see a lot of military aircraft today, so they must have a lot of them out in full swing too. And you can always tell the military they're a darkish gray, and they're usually way up there. But I don't know, I do know we had a CME in the recent days, so that's probably one reason that they're doing a lot of spraying. I swear I'm still a proponent. I think they do this spraying to keep us from evolving, because this is UVC rays are DNA altering, and I think that's why you're seeing these skills and our underlying gifts starting to come to the surface. I'm right next to Brian, North Carolina. Yes, he is. And one of these days we're going to have to get together, buddy. I mean, my aunt lives in Asheville, and actually she just got done with all her chemo. I need to go over and see her at some point anyway. So we'll have to get together and have lunch or something. Jawway, welcome. What's going on, my friend? Celia and Favor, welcome. It's good to see you. Welcome to the family. Have provision to get through months of anything. Well, brother, the same goes here. I don't know that I've got months. I've probably got at least a couple of months provisions, but You know, Gary, you like me, you know, a country boy. I mean, there's a will, there's a way. So I'm not truly worried about that. You know, spring coming up, got plenty of herbs and things in the woods and in the fields, and we can get by. So, anyway, I guess we should get rolling. Celia and Favor, it's so good to have you here. Let's see, how do I get this going? Share screen. All right, all right, all right. Party at the Moon Tower. Does anybody know what movie that's from? I bet you don't. They're blocking the sun. We need to live and activate. Absolutely, I agree 100%. Country boy can survive. You got that right. All righty. So, I know most of you have. I know some of y'all said you got up 7, 8 chapters ahead. Like I said, that's what got me to look into this a little bit and see that there was chapters. Now I do know here in the first chapter too, I'm not going to read the foreword and all that, but I do recommend if you have time to go back and read over it, kind of the inspiration behind it, because you know he poses a lot of questions in the foreword, and it's a lot of questions we've been asking for a while. So I want to check that out at some point. Dazed and confused, you are absolutely correct, Delaney. Good call. Love it. All right, so but anyway, what I was going to say, here in the first chapter or two, you're going to be posed with a question, and it's kind of going to come back in the end. And, you know, I think it's a question that all of us have asked at some point in our life. I think maybe it's a question that if you're alive and living and thinking, you would ask this question. Maybe not, you know, word for word verbatim as they state it here, but, you know, where do we come from, basically? So anyway, we'll get into it. And like I said, we'll stop in between chapters. Now, I'm not going to be able to follow along with chat too well. I'm going to try to peruse through it as I can, but of course, I'm going to be reading. So, but I don't want to make this boring. Like I said, you know, if I see something that maybe we need to stop and discuss, you know, we'll discuss it. And, you know, if you do have a question that you think needs to be posed right away, put it in all caps, you know, and I wish you could ring a bell or something, but do whatever you got to do to get my attention. So anyway, here we go. Over the thousands of years of recorded history, religion, science, and education, and public opinion has gotten some things all wrong. They have been looking at the wrong side of the coin. Let me give you a question and something to think about. First, let me set the stage for you so it will be easier to understand the question. Science tells us that energy and matter cannot be created from nothing. The most brilliant minds on the planet, Professor Stephen Hawking at Cambridge University in England, and many other theoretical physicists claim their equations of quantum physics showed that this whole universe was created from nothing. If matter and energy cannot be created from nothing, and the whole universe was created from nothing, and you are in this universe created from nothing, then what are you? I'm going to read it again. If matter and energy cannot be created from nothing, and the whole universe was created from nothing, and you are in this universe created from nothing, what are you? Like I said, we're going to get back to that later on in that. So kind of keep that as an undertone. And as he says, it would be simple to give you the right answer or right now, but you need to think about it. You would miss some of the deeper universal knowledge if it was just given to you without your study and deeper contemplation. This book is written on several levels of consciousness. So when you keep massaging your connection to the universal consciousness, much of this will be easier to understand the second time through the book. The secrets of the ages has been kept well from the masses of people by the powers that be and the guardians of knowledge. The people of power and influence did not and still do not understand what they are actually hiding from the masses. They only know the residual effects of the use of the spiritual knowledge, and this they do not want the masses to be able to have access to and understand. If the people generally would have access to this higher knowledge, they would create for themselves the effects of abundance, peace, love, harmony, good health, ingenuity, and all the other things mankind so sorely needs. There's an old saying There is no money in the solution. There's only money in the problem. Ain't that the truth? That is one of the reasons we have so many problems. If we follow the money trail, we will often find that the ones who are directly or indirectly benefiting from our problems are often the ones who have directly or indirectly created the problems. Why would they not do that? Of course they would. Think on that. Having said that, keep in mind that doing whatever it takes to secure our position of power, influence, and wealth has been of utmost importance for the non-spiritual part of humanity for millennia. There are billions of people who would do exactly the same if and when they would have the chance. This cosmic mind-created experience we call our life may not be a bad thing. Since we create our own life experience and truth does exist, it sometimes is our choice not to seek it. If we seek it, we will find it because it is so simple to find if we know how and where to look. If we do not seek it, it still creates another life experience from which we will learn, and to our sum of physical, mental, and spiritual knowledge and experience. What you will read in this book are my written words of interpretation of the details, concepts and explanations retrieved from the universal consciousness, blended with my own facts and research knowledge as a digger and a researcher of what is behind the curtain. I have been an out-of-the-box thinker since I was a boy a long time ago. My mother encouraged me to question everything. That out-of-the-box thinking has come in handy over the decades. In fact, I jokingly say that I am so far out of the box, I do not even know where the box is anymore. Because of that, I have been able to experience more than 10 people usually do in their lifetime, and the journey goes on. Think of it. If everything in our world was perfect and we had no challenges, what would we learn? We would learn all the good stuff, but would it make us strong and grow as fast as we otherwise would with challenges? Or is it even being strong necessary if everything is perfect? Are there things and setbacks and the negative side of life that is necessary for the soul to learn? Would that further our spiritual growth more? Think on that one. The answer is probably that we will advance up the spiritual ladder sooner if we experience more. Also, since we at the soul level of consciousness have chosen and agreed to go through some of the so-called negative stuff, it is obvious that it has a purpose. And God knows we've all been through the negative stuff. There are no questions about it. We are on a journey. Once a human or any sentient being has reached a certain amount of spiritual presence, they will find a reason to look within for the essential life essence. Ain't that what we're doing? Until that happens, we humans will only see the physically visible forms and be more or less oblivious to that their true self is what they see and observe through the senses. But a universally interconnected, intelligent, omnipresent, universal life force. Once this awakening has started, the sentient being can reach enlightenment relatively quickly, and at one point will be in no need of a physical body anymore. If you think life is exciting now, just wait until you start finding out what is behind the curtain. I'm excited. The one thing that will hold you back more than anything is your spiritual growth is the ego. The ego is in love with the physical reality. The ego will rule the conscious and the subconscious mind if you allow it. It loves being in charge, and the only place it can be in charge is in the physical reality. It will do almost absolutely anything to prevent you from connecting to the universal higher consciousness. You must understand the ego, otherwise it will outsmart you every time and keep you in bondage in the physical body forever. You cannot outfight it. You must sneak up on it and outsmart it by allowing love to enter the equation. Love is the most powerful force in the universe, and when love flows through you, ego must step aside. If you persist with love, the ego is transmuted into pure light, so you will get back the full view of who you are without the illusion. I mean, what? Are y'all ready? Can I get a hell yeah? See if there's any questions. I'll go back. If not, I'll just continue. The name of the book. Hold on, I'll get that for you, buddy. I can't remember right off. It's a long title. I'll send it to you too, Brian. It's Spiritual Science, higher conscious thinking and how to access the universal consciousness by Agnost, or however you say his name. Don't ask. I can't tell you that one. So anyway, no questions. Chapter 2. So what is this? Secret of the Ages. Some secret societies has almost figured out what this universal higher consciousness is, but they are keeping the knowledge to themselves. The selected worthy ones, I select to call this universal higher consciousness, universal consciousness. It is not even really a secret. Every living thing in all of existence has a direct channel to this knowledge and creative power. Better yet, we are all part of this intelligent universal energy. But most people do not understand how to implement this knowledge and principles for the betterment of themselves, friends, family, the community, and the world. Those very few who does know and walk this path has mostly eliminated disease, poverty, conflict, ignorance, and the effects of those concepts in their life and everything they do. Still, they may have challenges also, but they deal with them differently than most other people, who mostly think as the program society dictates. We seem to dwell on the problems more than the solutions. Yeah, and the problem-solving process. This secret is simply how to tap into and open up for the free flow of information and resources from the universal consciousness, referred by many other names throughout the millennia. When we are able to tap into this source, it may look as we become very lucky or having one miracle after another. Of course, we know there is no such thing as luck, magic, or miracles. The term miracle was created by the inventors of the different doctrines of religion to explain the unexplainable in such a way that the uneducated masses of the distant past would not ask any questions. Everything in all of creation works according to its appropriate science. We know the word, but what is science? If you think about it, you will find we only have 3 forms of science. There's the physical science, mental science, spiritual science. All other sciences, if you break them down, will fall into one of these 3 categories of science. Looking at physical science, we think we have this one figured out pretty well. We have automobiles that can travel 240 miles per hour. We have airplanes that travel faster than 3 times the speed of sound. We made a watch that winds itself. We went to the moon and left a used car behind. Okay. And we have created enough nuclear weapons to kill all of life on Earth, well over 200 times. If you ask me, I would say anything over 2 or 3 times would be more than enough to get the job done. Who you telling? We can truly say mankind is highly intelligent, but insist on proving over and over again that we are not always very smart. Who you telling? The second form of science is mental science. That covers hypnosis, photographic memory, thought transference, subliminal photography, eidetic memory. We know it exists, but are just now starting to scratch the scratch on the surface of these mind technologies. The publicly sanctioned education system will, I guess we should never say never, teach something like this. It will interfere with their jobs program. If you like to learn and get a better understanding of some of the things I just mentioned above, I highly recommend Subliminal Dynamics Mind Management. I'll have to look into that one. At last, there's spiritual science, on which we must admit that mankind as a whole has no clue. All that people usually have is just religion, which is some fragmented areas can come pretty close. but they are still buried in superstition and illusion. Spiritual science will, in many areas, overlap with theoretical physics, quantum physics, without really being recognized as such. I was just talking about that. You have to have some kind of grasp on, the quantum physics to even understand spirituality, which I had no idea up until the past few years. Anyway, okay, onwards and upwards. Oh, chapter 3. Wow, okay. So let's see if there's any questions. If not, we'll continue. If this is boring as shit out of you, I can understand. That's fine. You don't have to watch, but I hope it's not. I mean, like I said, luckily, like I didn't want to read this before we started because I kind of wanted to feel it in real time with y'all. So, bear with me as far as my reading goes and everything. All right, let's see. I don't think I see any questions. Yep, that's right, David. They call it a miracle because they don't want to say that someone manifested it. Boom. Truth bomb. Yeah, Bridget, our ego is what is our protector. I mean, but there's a difference in ego protection and ego, which I'm sure you know that. So anyway, here we go. Chapter 3. And it's at 10:30. I'm trying to get a gist on how long these chapters take too. All right, here we go. The theoretical physicists are finally starting to come around the fact that things are not the way it looks. The overlap of spiritual science and quantum physics is sneaking up on them without them knowing it. They're tapping into the spiritual pool of universal consciousness when they sit and stare at equations. It's us looking into the Akashic. Many of them are starting to see we are living in mind-created universe. All indications derived from higher consciousness thinking show they are right. The mind-created universe we live in is separated into 3 major levels of existence. There's the physical existence, the mental existence, and the spiritual existence, with many different levels of vibratory existence, parallel universes, within each category. Each level of existence has its own set of principles and laws of physics. Physical existence is based on the laws of physics in the physical reality only. A mental existence is based on a set of mental laws of physics with some overlap down in vibration into the physical existence. In a spiritual existence, there's a set of spiritual laws of physics. The laws of physics in the spiritual existence overlap into all levels of existence in all of creation. This is what we call universal law. Spiritual knowledge is not easily understood by the physical and mental awareness of people. It is for the most blocked by constant activity and clutter in the physical and mental portion of the mind. Through millennia of indoctrination into superstition, dogma, and religious falsehood, most people are no longer capable of higher conscious thinking and true spiritual discernment on their own. The past leaders of the different faiths have taken a core truth and woven it into a web of ignorance and falsehood to serve their own purpose of power and control, and sold it to the ignorant masses of the people. That worked excellent with a basically ignorant mass of people in the distant past. Pure truth is a commodity that is hard to find. It is uncommon. You will rarely find it among the masses of people. Even Adolf Hitler understood that. He said that the great mass of people will more easily fall victim to a big lie than to a small one. He should know he was the master of lies. It was not just Germany. Closer to home, John Swinton, a former chief of staff of the New York Times, is on record saying the business of journalists is to destroy the truth, to lie outright, to pervert, to vilify, to fawn and at the feet of Mammon, and to sell his country and his race for his daily bread. You know it, and I know it. So what folly is this toasting an independent press? We're the tools and vessels of rich men behind the scenes. They pull the strings, we dance. God, it just makes me sick because it's true. I only mention this for one reason, to shock you into thinking, so you may possibly accept everything is not always the way it appears. From the beginning of societies, the town crier have not been telling you the truth. Back then, the town crier walked up and down the streets crying out to the citizens that the king wanted them to know. And it usually amounted to everything is well. Get your bread in the town square on Sunday. Taxes must be paid by full moon. Everything is well. The more you grow, the more you will be able to recognize the lies. If you recognize the lie for what it is, a lie, it loses its power over you if you act. If you do not act, you are still submerged in the effects of the lie and even more miserable because you now know the truth. Ignorance is bliss, huh? Probably not. The ignorant masses have always been taken advantage of since the beginning of time. Nothing is different today. They have always been the ones paying the bill for the profit-making wars in which role they themselves play the cannon fodder. John Wayne, the actor, is on record saying it a little more straightforward. Life is tough everywhere, but it is tougher if you are stupid. When you recognize the mind-created illusion behind it all, your mind can be free. If your mind is totally free, you are free. But for the most, we are just walking around every day asleep in our shoes. Another reason for the common lack of spiritual knowledge and understanding is that it is not disseminated in a language easily understood by the conscious mind, which does not process information the same way. Still, with some practice, you can get good at it. The principles are actually very simple. Everyone has access to this universal knowledge. All we need to do is to learn how to process it. We do that by opening up the channel in meditation. Tune out that static. Oh my God, there's somebody else. Well, I call it noise, but that's the way I describe it too. That constant chatter. And listen. That is another thing. We're not very good at listening. You know, the creator who designed the human body gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should learn to use them accordingly. When we finally go into meditation and speak our wishes into the language of the spiritual world, the universal consciousness will start speaking to you in words, thoughts, emotions, feelings, flashes of insight, inspiration, clumps of condensed volumes of information rapidly downloaded into your mind, mental images and pictures and things like that. It is not delivered to you in your native language. Your mind grabs on the information and translates it to a spoken language you can verbalize in your mind. To formulate conscious understanding, when you depart from the images, inspiration, pictures, and translate it to a spoken language, you often lose some of the information in the translation, the part of it that cannot be translated. Okay, wow. Okay, that right there, I got to back up just for a second if y'all don't care. Because that, like, God, just describes so much in my head that I've never heard anybody else really put it that way. Because that's exactly like, you know, when I was telling you about that message coming through earlier. It's not like I heard there's going to be a CME and there's going to be major power outage. It just comes to me in like this thought, and it's not like just random passing thoughts. When these thoughts come through, like, you know, it has merit. You know in your heart, like you've got to say something. It's got to be heard. And you know, I'd be curious to know how other people interpret that and how other people, you know, I'm sure we're all different. And that's why I'd like to know, but, you know, I'd like to know how other people get their messages or downloads. And, you know, very few really come through for me as far as images and things like that. It's mostly like, just like I said, it's an understanding and knowing. And sometimes these things will come through and I've never even heard of it before. I have to look it up, you know, and I'm like, I've never even heard of the word before. And so I'll look it up and then, you know, it starts making sense. So I don't know. No wonder people think we're crazy. All right, let me see if there's any questions here. Yes, the media is to manipulate you. You're absolutely correct, Trina. And they're doing a great job right now. What are spirits being? The floating line in the word part of the sources. Bridget, you're spot on. She says, I have been thinking about the idea of form versus spirit. What our spiritual being be like? A floating light, an orb. Yeah, I mean, just like our aura, that's our spirit body glowing. I'm still trying to figure out whether maybe our spirit body could be our higher self, but that still has to be incorporated in the energy field. And I think that's more maybe what you're talking about is the floating light. I also think when you see these orbs and stuff like UFOs in the air, man, and I'm telling you, this is one of those knowing things too. When you just see these orbs, not really a craft, I'm telling you, that's astral travelers. That's people like us going into the astral and I truly believe that those are interdimensional travelers from wherever. So I hope that helps. And you said as a part of the source of like a fractal. Yeah. I never was a big proponent as far as the fractals, but I do get a lot of information that we're supposed to be collecting these fractals. I don't think that you're wanting to be fractaled out right now. I think you're supposed to be collecting these pieces. I think that's a part. Collecting those fractals is a part of ascension. I don't think you can ascend on unless you've collected all those fractals. But no, that's just my opinion. Let's see what else we got going on here. Sorry for the dead air. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not missing any questions. I really miss Tribal 44. Okay. I'd like to hear more about that. Yeah. Jesse McCartney, I guarantee you're getting the downloads. A lot of these things that I consider downloads now was passing thoughts, things that I just thought was just running through my brain in a day. And, most of the time I would just dismiss them, but I started paying attention to those things. And then I started actually following them. And I'm telling you, I'm not going back to the old way. So, yes, every word is spelling. I've said that all along, Gary. I truly believe the English language was created for spellcasting. And I think that's why it's the most predominant language across the planet. Let's see what else we got going on here. Baffled, Brian. What are you baffled at, Bridget? Oh, she said she heard that too. Click it like a Polaroid picture. What's going on, Amanda B? I sent you a copy. And first it was down, pay attention to. Okay, cool. We're caught up. Y'all want to read chapter 4? Here we go. Get down there where I can click again. Okay. Chapter 4, living in a physical world by spiritual principles. I did not say religious principles. May not be so simple, but it can be. It is toughest in the beginning when you have to step out on faith. Once you break through the errors and misconceptions placed in your mind by the ones who have been influencing and controlling the way you would think up to now, you can tune into the universal consciousness and start to receive some of the universal truth yourself, which is what we're doing. If this is a journey you are just starting on, there will be a day when you will suddenly have something happen that will prove to you that, yes, this is real. See, there you go, Bridget. This yes can show up in many different ways. It can be a simple thing like you suddenly get a flash of a thought to call your friend Henry to tell him something important. You reach for the phone to call and it rings. You answer it, it is Henry who is calling you. How many times have y'all done that? I mean, countless. This proves the connection of the minds. It is not a miracle, magic, or buried in metaphysics. It is called thought transference and rooted in physical and mental science based on the fact that everything in the universe is connected as one large organism. In my opinion, God. Besides being a storehouse of memories, knowledge, and having the ability to reason, a portion of your mind is a transmitter and a receiver of thought waves. There is no difference between that and a radio transmitter and receiver, Maybe that's why I hear music in my head sometimes. Just a different frequency. If you're able to tune in and into another person's frequency of thought, you will know their thoughts. Hence, telepathy training, people. This can be sporadic and unconscious, or you can train yourself to do this consciously. Some physics are better at this than others. And no, it is not of the devil. It is plain and simple science, which is not very well understood yet. Do not expect to find a lot of government publicly disclosed research in this area. Government bureaucrats do not want anyone to be able to probe around in their mind. They need victims and secrets. When you discover that you are not a victim and never were, you give yourself permission and the freedom to create from the full capacity of your own mind. Then you will know the only limitations you will have are the ones created in your own mind. Let me repeat. Then you will know the only limitations you have are the ones created in your own mind. You're the only one who can change your worldview of what you think is real, right, and wrong. If you are tied down with rigid structure and carefully created and guarded demons in your mind, this may not be your life cycle or time to achieve spiritual freedom. Let that set in. Maybe you have more to learn. Still, graduation from school comes quickly when we discover we are not who we think we are, or God may not be who we think he is. Another example of what can happen is that you walk into a room and need to turn the lights on. You reach for the light switch and the lights come on before you flip the switch, and the switch is in the up position. Your mind was totally focused on the light switch and actually flipped the switch before you touched it. It is a form of telekinesis taught in some of the martial arts, especially the arts of the ninja. Again, no magic, no miracle, just based on mental science and not very well understood yet. There will be a day within this century when this science will be understood by many. Governments will try to deny it, block it, prosecute people engaging in it, but it cannot be stopped. There will be electronic devices that can do the same thing. Look for the brain tuner, which someone can hang around their neck and be able to hear the thoughts of people around them. That technology is already available, people. All right, that was a quick chapter. So, okay, do you see, folks, why I was so excited about this? Because this is what we talk about, or at least on my channel, this is what we talk about week in and week out. And I know that sometimes I sound like a broken record and all that, but folks, just like my background says, you are limitless. Limitless. If you believe it, you can achieve it. So now y'all know why I'm so excited. Like I said, to me, it's like taking pages out of my mind when I'm reading on this. So as much if there's any question or not, we'll continue on. Yes, he is a genius, Dark Truth. That's what I'm saying. That's why I've been so excited to start this, because I want y'all to know what I know. Like we truly believe. Just believe. And I'm telling you, the reason I'm so excited is because I never used to believe in myself, and it's actually a nice change. So, all right. So I guess we'll continue on with at least chapter 5 here. Part of your spiritual growth is to start realizing that there is something inside you that is greater, smarter, more powerful, and has more resources than what looks like when you look in the mirror. That inner reflection of your physical self is what you need to become one with. The mind has been thoroughly conditioned to ensure that you stay separate from your inner and higher self, which is your part of the universal consciousness, the source of all things. When you feel separate from this source, you will have a hard time manifesting much of a higher value up and beyond the average. The ego runs the show in the subconscious mind, and much of it has become automatic. We must lay new commands on top of this destructive subconscious conditioning and remove the old negative and erroneous mind programming of the ego. There is a way to get rid of it. Asking the ego to subdue its own influence is like teaching a cat how to bark. You will be old and gray sitting in the rocking chair before that happens, but you can outsmart it. Stressful thoughts seem to show up in your mind. That is what the ego does. God, how many times have you been sitting there stressing out and you don't even know why? I can't even count. You did not create it. It will stick with you until you question the validity of the thought. If you impose on the subconscious mind that the concept and the reason for the thought is false, but in a different form, the thought will have a positive and good effect. There will be no stress. Stress teaches only more stress. Whew. Violence teaches more violence. If you have only non-judgmental, soft-spoken love with positive action in your heart and mind, your outer and inner world will change. You will raise the frequency of everything around you to reflect the frequency of love. Love is the key. It is up to you to find the door this key will fit into. And, we talk about that all the time. Each individual thought is like a ripple that goes out into the space-time continuum. And that's why I'm always saying being more mindful of your thoughts and things, because truly, that being said, and I know that it is true, think if we could change our thought. If you when I say I get in a bad mood, and I've learned to go and if I'm starting to feel bad or getting a bad mood, I'll go meditate, and it immediately changes that. So if we could get everybody conditioned to start doing that, or if you get a bad thought in your head, immediately replace it with something funny or something like that. It's the same thing as gaining that 2%, just like that they've kept control over us for so long. Once we can kill them with love, and love is way more powerful than that vileness that they're bringing, we got her licked, folks. Now, like I said, I keep saying it's not going to be sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns here on out. There's going to be some cleansing and clearing. That's unfortunately, it's part of the process. But look at it this way, folks. You're here, you're reading this, you're looking into what you're capable of. And I know in my heart also, it's not going to hurt us. That's why we are here. We're here to help those people that do make it. So keep that in your heart and mind, and no matter how hard and tough it gets, know that we're going to come out of it all right, but you got to be in it for the right reasons. So anyway, do y'all want to go? Do you want me to read one more chapter? It's up to you. I don't care. Let me see if there's any questions real quick too. So I'm sorry if I'm just getting up here rambling. Like I said, I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I hope y'all are enjoying it. And I hope you'll continue to at least read. If you don't like hearing me read it, at least read the book. So, okay. So Christopher McCarthy said yes. So I'll do another one. Yes, Deborah, exactly. All right, here we go. Chapter 6. One of the functions of the subconscious mind is to be a transmitter and a receiver of thought wave. This is what I was just talking about. Okay, receiver of thought wave energy. In a physical existence outside of the neural network, thought energy travels in waves, much like a radio signal, and can be measured by physical science instruments. In the neural network, it travels along the nerve systems as electrically coded information. When thought communication mind to mind is happening, it travels at a speed from 63 to hundreds of times the speed of light. As a minute gravity wave, the speed depends on your energy level and the intensity of thought. That makes sense. Spiritual intelligent communication on the physical existence, on the other hand, is instantaneous to any distance anywhere in all of creation. Outside the physical and mental existence, where linear time does not exist, distance does not exist either. Time is all in the present, and all knowledge, matter, distance, and life just is. The universal consciousness, God, are everywhere. At the same time, in a mind-created universe, whatever you see outside of yourself is all created and happening in your mind. You will grow into that one. It took me a while, but now it actually makes sense. Don't it though? The more you practice listening, the more clearly the voice of universal consciousness will be heard at any time. But best when your mind is still after or during tranquil thoughts of contemplation, or after asking questions in deep meditation. Also, an excellent place for subconscious and universal communication is in the shower. I've been talking about that too. How many times have you had a brilliant idea, flash of inspiration, or answer to a question while you were in the shower? It's got to do with the water. It has something to do with the water flowing over your body and grounding you to the planet. I guess I might as well just wait and read it. The same thing goes on for meditation. One of the best places to meditate is sitting under a tree with you. Whoa, shoot. Did not mean to do that. Give me a second, folks. All right, okay, I went too far. I hit the wrong button. Not sure. Sages. Okay, that's not. Dang it, man. Okay, there's the thought waves. Makes sense. There we go. One of the best places to meditate is sitting under a tree with your back up against it, with bare feet on the ground. This way you are grounded again. I do not exactly know why it works this way. When I ask, all I get is, do it. Everything in the physical is electrical in nature. So by the time spiritual thought and energy is transferred to conscious understanding, it is electrical. Therefore, I suppose it should make sense to ground ourselves when we meditate. Absolutely. Besides, the sages and spiritual teachers of the old days always told people to meditate barefoot. How can we argue with them? In meditation and any time after, you should listen for a feeling of knowing or sudden thoughts, concepts, solutions, visions, colorful mental images, words, voices, clusters of information showing up in your conscious mind. Sudden unexpected happening. People who can help suddenly show up in your life. That is how the universal consciousness transfers spiritual and mental creations into physical existence. Answers to what you are looking for may be found in conversations with other people. Other people may volunteer to help. Answers and solutions can come from anywhere. And like I said, I've said that many times, and I know many other people talk about that as well. You know, sometimes I'll go into meditation and ask a question, and it may not come in meditation. I may be watching a commercial and something will go boom, there you go, and it pops to you. It's just you just never know where it's going to come from. It is important that you keep your mind open and listen, just not only with our ears, but with our all 6 senses. Yes, 6. Recognize the answers and the help when it comes. Then you act on it. We have to do our part. Remember the old saying, God will give you the nut, but he will not crack it. This reminds me of the joke about the man who was living alone and him and his house got caught up in a flood. He was not worried because he knew God would take care of him, but the water kept rising, so he went up to the 2nd floor. The water still kept rising, so he crawled out the attic window and got on the roof. He was not worried, though, because God would save him. The current was strong and it did not look good, but he was not afraid because he knew God would save him. A big log came drifting by and he could just step out on the log and drift to the shore, but he was not worried because God would save him. After a while, a man in a small boat came by and he said he could take the man to safety. The man looked at the boat and thought the boat was too small, so he told the man he was not worried because God would save him. After a while, it was just a small part of the roof showing and the man was sitting on it. A helicopter came by and they told the man they would help him to safety. The man was afraid of flying, so he said he would wait because he was not afraid. Why? Because God would save him. Well, the man drowned. Getting to heaven, he was walking up to the pearly gates and told St. Peter, "Hey, this is a mistake. I'm not supposed to be here yet." St. Peter shrugged his shoulders and said, "I'm just here watching the gate. You better talk to God about that." The man asked, "Where is God? I want to see him because I have a bone to pick with him." Peter told him, "Go up to the hill to the mansion, and he would probably find God in the throne room." The man headed up the hill to the mansion. He walked in and he found God. The man told God, "Hey, you did a mistake. I'm not supposed to be here yet." God said, "Wait a minute. First, I sent you a log. You did not get on it. Then I sent you a boat. You didn't get on it. Then I sent you a helicopter. And of course, you were too afraid of flying to save your life. Don't you understand you've got to work with me a little bit?" So the moral of the story is, you knew there would be one, right? That we need to do our part. When you get an inspiration or an answer, follow up on it. And again, God will give us the nut, but he will not crack it. In order to understand how things would work best, it is important to understand what it is and from where the communication comes. It that produces the answer. It, the universal consciousness, God, the creator, source of all things, or whatever you want to call it. To start understanding the truth, we must start overcoming the misconceptions, errors, and misunderstandings beat into us by the ones who have controlled our minds until now by religion, government, media, and other sources of input imposed on us by the designers of society. Freedom always starts in the mind and from where we create our own freedom. Since our conscious and subconscious minds do not know that they are only a small, integral part of the all-encompassing universal consciousness, they think they are everything and create everything on their own rather than being recreated in its environment in each moment. All this self-conscious glory is turned into great humility when we discover that we are not who we think we are, but that we are just nothing at all, merely a physical expression of thought-projected images created by the universal mind. Even after we start getting a little bit of an understanding of this universal consciousness, we seem to want to humanize it. We sometimes take this whole concept of universal consciousness and put it inside of a human body and call it God. By doing this, it feels like another entity, not us. When we do this, it is very detrimental to our spiritual growth because we create an understanding of separation from that universal mind or God. Truth is nothing like that. We are one with the universal mind or God. Why do we block it? We do not. The ego does. That is why it is so important to overcome the ego. If we are trying to separate from the universal consciousness, you cannot feel it. When you understand who you are and you feel the oneness, you can actually experience this understanding, not only intellectually, but also spiritually. This day will come. Spiritually, we are all, to some degree, mentally ill. What is an illness? An illness is a condition by which something perfect has been allowed to be affected or degraded, so it is no longer perfect. Anything imperfect can be restored by removing that error that caused the imperfection. There's a quote from A Course in Miracles which explains it very well. A healed mind is relieved of the belief that it must plan, although it does not know the outcome that is best, the means by which it is achieved, or how to recognize the problem that the plan is made to solve. What you just read was pure truth. Read it again. When the mind is healed, all we have to do is to believe with enough conviction so we know that only good things lie before us, and it will be better and better. A healed mind does not try to control and micromanage every detail of its existence. That's that flow. It allows the universal consciousness to create before you do. So all you have to do is walk into and what was there all along. It was just not consciously accessible before you allowed it to be by expecting and intending it. If we start micromanaging and planning for every detail, the universal consciousness will step back and say, okay, I see you think you have it under control. You don't need my help with it. Of course, I'm playing on words here, but that is the effect you get. You are on your own. Now you're operating on pure physical and mental principles. It is a very dangerous arena. But that does not mean that you will not succeed. A lot of things can be brought into existence by plain conscious creation. Even through conscious creation, according to quantum physics and spiritual science, is a mind-created illusion. It is still anchored in spiritual science, which allows for it to be created in a world of form as a lower vibratory form of light. We must remember that darkness has no substance. It is only absence of light. When you block the light from reaching all the way up to conscious understanding, good luck. You still may succeed in a physical sense, but it is unlikely to have the same lasting effects of happiness and blessing for everyone as it would have if there was spiritual energy of love attached to it. The difference between religion and spirituality is as day and night and very confusing. Spirituality, it is sought with a pure heart and goodwill. Will bring you to and connect you to source of all things. It is a self-guided, intelligent spiritual process. Once you are on the path, you cannot fail. You may be distracted with your different games and illusions that you're living, but you will return to the path and school of higher learning. I think that's a good place to stop right there. So, what do y'all think so far? Let me look through here. Well, I saw one right here about Trina thinks all is mine when I think of it. That it's us. Okay. Thanks for being okay. I had to read the second part there. Let's see what we got here. Good to see everybody's interacting in chat too. That's one thing I like. Now, and like I said, if anybody hasn't received a copy of this yet, go ahead and email me and I can still send them out to you. John, my dad used to tell me that story. What story, John? Well, I want to see it. It must be on up in here somewhere. Well, I don't see it. Mm-hmm. Oh, somebody put clickbait. Somebody did ask, whatever. Maybe I just saw something. Wow, Lord. Okay. Yes, Dark Troop, it is deep. Like I said, and we're just getting, this is just getting into like, I truly hope people at the end of this will have, I mean, I know we're always going to have doubts, but I hope you can truly see what we're capable of because you are limitless. I promise you. Thank you, Trina. I appreciate it. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. I really do. Well, I guess if there's no questions or anything, I'm going to wrap it up. Like I said, wow, it's been an hour. So we got through what, 6 chapters, I think. So I'll put that down on the heading for this, and that way I can kind of get a better gist on how it'll go next time. And like I said, you know, I'm going to try to keep them right at an hour, but if we have quite good questions and stuff coming in that runs over, hey, that's fine. I mean, this, you know, I wanted to read this to everyone because, like I said, I know the excitement it brought me, and like I said, it's, to me, it's like listening to one of our conversations. So I know the clarity it brought for me, and I hope, you know, if it'll at least do that, like I said, even if you don't watch these, at least you've got the book there now. And if it's not piquing your curiosity now, when the time's right, it will. So anyway, thank you so much for being here, each and every one of you. I love you so much. I hope it wasn't too boring just sitting here listening to me read for a little bit. Like I said, once we get going into this and start incorporating some of the different training, you know, things we can do. And like I said, questions will start coming up more and more as we get deeper into this well too. So, and I really do want to, like I said, when we take time in between chapters, I really do want to start doing some interaction questions and things like that, because really, folks, I mean, this is how we get to the bottom of it. And don't ever think that any question you have is stupid or don't matter. You wouldn't believe some of the most minute details is some of the most important things that you just brush off to the side and take for granted. Somebody else that may not be in the reality. So keep that in mind. And once again, you know, anybody, if you're fighting something or, you know, going through some problems, issues, email me at milkywayweekly@gmail. I know there's a lot of people in this chat as well. Don't think you're in this alone, folks, because I guarantee you are not. And we may not be on the same parts of the journey, but I guarantee you, you know, we've either been there or close approaching, or we can connect you with somebody that has been there. So no, you're not alone. Remember, you are limitless. Be the frequency you want to receive, folks. And I truly mean this. I love you from the bottom of my heart. Have a good night.